You may be wondering why in this video I'm not sitting down and I'm standing. Well, I'll explain it in a little bit because it has something to do with today's topic. Today, we'll be thinking through the process of regression. Regression is understood as the returning to a former or less developed state. Now, regression happens for many reasons, and the reality is it can happen to all of us. For myself, I feel like I'm going through a little bit of regression right now because I've been experiencing a lot of back pain, which is why I'm not sitting down and I'm standing. The thing is, regression for children is quite common. They experience this as a natural occurrence in their process of growing. Now, for us as adults, we kind of have already experienced this, and it's kind of easy for us to forget the reality of this, or even the necessity of having to experience this. Children usually experience regression when they start school. It's a major change in environment for them, and it actually demands a lot out of them in order to be in that space and feel comfortable, feel safe, feel confident, feel like themselves. And so, when they're experiencing regression, it may look like being clingy, they may cry easily, they may throw tantrums. Let's take a second to think about what kind of reactions we would have if we were to come across a child experiencing regression. There was once this little girl that was in one of the programs I was working in, and she was rambunctious and outgoing, and she always knew where she wanted to go within the classroom. Whenever her family members would drop her off, she would very eagerly say goodbye to them and then rush off to where she wanted to go. But suddenly, one day, all of this changed. She came into the classroom and something seemed different. She was holding on to her grandmother very tightly, almost as if she didn't want to come in. As soon as her grandma was about to leave, she began to cry and held on to her grandma even tighter. For her grandmother, it started to become a little bit almost a nuisance because her grandma had things to do. Now, as educators, our role is to not only help the child, but also the adult, so that we can all understand what is going on and how we can all support one another through this period. If you were to be in this situation, how would you respond? What would be some of the thoughts that are going through your mind? For us as adults, it's very easy to see regression as a nuisance. We see the child going through this and we just think, why can't you just go into the classroom, or why can't you just be like you were before so that I can leave and do what I need to do? The thing is, regression can be a nuisance, but I want to encourage us to think of regression as an invitation. That is, an invitation to rebuild and strengthen what was already there within the child. When we see regression more so as an invitation rather than a nuisance, then it helps us better prepare and better posture ourselves to be with the child in that moment. Let us look again at this example of the child experiencing regression, not wanting to go into the class, clinging to grandma, and almost being fearful of the classroom environment. The thing is, it had just been a long weekend, and so the child would have spent one more day than they would have usually spent at home, or in other words, away from the classroom. For children, one day can make a really, really big difference. Although for this little girl, regression was not pleasant and very difficult to go through, With the help of her grandma and us as her teachers, we were able to support her to better understand what she was going through and better slowly take steps to reacquaint herself with the classroom, her classmates, and really herself and what she wanted to do in the classroom environment. Indeed, regression can be a nuisance, and at times it can really test our patience. But if we shift our posture to see regression not so much as an obstacle, we're able to rebuild and strengthen not only the child and not only ourselves, but our relationship between them and our relationship with the world around us. We may all be experiencing regression in different forms. Like for me, my back, and regressing in its flexibility. And so, what have I needed to do? I've needed to do stretches and to take breaks and to be less rigid in the ways I do things. For example, standing up and not having to sit down to do these videos. What would it look like for you to see regression as an invitation? How could you engage with those moments, engage with the children as a way to partner with them, help them to strengthen and rebuild and to get to know themselves and the world around them even more? How can we come together and take this invitation of regression to watch, think, be?